Good morning. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, where truth is in the talk, truth, power is in the truth, and we believe the truth will set you free because the scriptures tells us so. And we kind of botched that opening, but it is Friday, and we usually do an open mic Friday, and we want to give an opportunity to new callers. That doesn't mean we're going to refuse any callers, but we want to give an opportunity to new callers and callers that kind of wait for Friday to call in. And the number is 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. And it is a good morning. The sun is shining. It's colder again. We had some really warm weather for the last 2 days, and it's cold today. But it is still February, so I guess we should realize it is still February. How are you doing this morning, Melody?
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. It's Friday. We've had a great, gold has been doing some nice things. Of course, the volatility in the markets are still there. Gold is struggling at $13.55, but we'll see how it ends up today. You have a little bit stronger dollar today, but we're looking at 88.85 today. So began the week at 90, so we had a pretty nice drop in the USDX today. Crude oil is back over 61, so the markets again are I believe in positive territory. This morning didn't have a chance to really look at them yet, but I guess it wouldn't take me long. Everything's pretty much positive on the day. So it seems to be like trading is back on track, and everybody goes back to sleep. We certainly have had a lot of distractions. And I really did think, as far as with the Olympics going on and everything, we certainly would have a positive week in stocks and so forth. But and then we certainly had the tragedy on Wednesday. And I really don't want to talk the whole program about what went on at the high school, but I do have to make this comment, Beth.
All right.
Just the headlines. I don't follow half of these people on the mainstream media and so forth. But I'll tell you what, it never shocks me as they are trying to make a statement that they believe is correct, the amount of hate that is attached to their words. And that is part of the problem that we're having. It's not the only problem, but it is part of the problem. Now, they can have on their side, they can go out and do all kinds of demonstrations and riots and destroy property and everything, and no one is held accountable for that. And it's like, well, they have a right to do that, Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 Ferguson, blah, 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 Soros, blah, 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 that's their right, they're blah, 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 blah. And it's like no one says anything. But the amount of hate that is attached. Kimmel, all these late-night comedians, why don't they try to stay, what they're supposed to do is entertain with funnies and not be political. We don't want them political. Once in a while, if you want to make fun of a politician or something like that, so be it. But they are using their platform to promote their hateful agenda. And, they call up and I can't say they're phony tears because, all of us have cried. Many of us have cried over the situation. So I don't know what's in there. I can only hear the hate. And it's just truly shocking. And I do think perhaps this last situation could very well be a big change.
Everything that's happened in the last year and a half, 2 years, has been more and more revealing as to their agenda and to their hate and their lack. They have, we talked about it yesterday and some before, the day before Wednesday when you were gone, because of the statement that mocking God that Joy Behar had made. And somebody actually sent me a clip of back in 2016 when Joy Behar said, God is telling me to save this nation.
Which God?
Yeah, but this was after she had said, anyone who thinks they're hearing voices is mentally ill. And, the hate is concerning because we have, on Valentine's Day, I read the love chapter. And I read it on both of our shows, on this show and on my show, CSC Talk Radio. And, it just, the greatest of these is love. And that's something that all of us fall short in displaying or in conveying is love. And I know you turn the other cheek, all that kind. I'm talking about showing love for even somebody like Joy Behar. I said I must have a little Trump thing in me because I like to call her bizarre. But, we have to stop and realize what the real problem is. And, my husband mentioned last night, because we watched this on and on and on, we finally turned it off. And he said, so everybody's responsible except the actual shooter.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not coming down to the fact that this 19-year-old man, I'm not calling him a boy. At 19, he knew what he was doing. He plotted, he planned it. He knew what he was doing. And he's guilty of murder. And first-degree murder many times over, 17 times at least. And they're blaming everyone else, everything else, an object, except the actual shooter. And it's we can talk about mental illness, and they have been talking about that. But all the signs, nobody paid attention to the signs, and all the gun laws and all the other laws in the world, you can legislate till the cows come home, but you can't legislate morality, and you can't legislate common sense. And, those are the things that, we're lacking morality and love in this nation right now. And in my opinion, and I'm not so on the right that I'm going to, make any Republican a saint. I'm not. But the Democrats have really displayed so much hate and disgust and towards God and towards people. They're all tolerant until they have to tolerate you. Until you don't agree with them, then there's no tolerance left. And,
well, it's very obviously they don't have any power to critical think because they just go to the main, guns and mental illness. Well, the problems are bigger, and certainly those who, we can say we need to bring God back into this country. That's true. That takes, what do we do, and it's just like, how do we do it? How do we address our culture? How do we address our society? I was reading an article today, and they were they looked to Japan. Well, Japan totally confiscated all weapons in 1958. That has somewhat loosened. You can have weapons, but you have to, you can't have handguns. You can only have rifles. And there's a lot of restrictions. You have to take self-defense classes every 3 years. You have to get background checks. You have to get mentally checked out and so forth and whatnot. It's very, difficult, not difficult, but time-consuming in order to own a rifle in Japan. But most of the article failed to talk about is we don't do anything to bad behavior. If you look to their culture, they respect their elders. And not only that, Japan has a very aging population. You get an aging population, a lot of that anger and, testosterone and things like that kind of, go by the wayside. I mean, I can issue some stats on Japan and their elderly. That's very disturbing. So they have a huge elderly population, and they're not reproducing. So their youth is just basically going by the wayside. That has a lot to do with it. They respect their elders. They're held accountable for things. So that's a big, big difference. What are we held accountable for here in this country? This kid, no one's doing their job. The FBI couldn't track down a statement on a website, but yet they can do all sorts of things to track it down.
They couldn't get a visa for that.
So, I mean, that's the point. Because there was other things to support those issues. Oh, well, we didn't know if it was the same kid. Well, did you even bother trying, or were you too busy trying to go after Trump last year?
Yeah.
I mean, how
too busy.
And that does bring up the question of the abilities of the FBI. How good are you guys? You all pat yourselves on the back, but what do you do? So just like Las Vegas, we have the laws. None of them are being enforced to the point that they should be. Just like immigration. Hey, if they don't enforce them. So that's a big problem. And but culture, how do you address culture on a short-term basis? Nobody wants to talk about it. They'd rather just point to mental illness, and the only reason they're bringing up mental illness is because of Trump. And I don't know why he reversed. I don't know what was in that legislation where he reversed, and I don't know if it's true or not. I just heard, on Fox when I was just, doing the, flipping of the stations to see what they were talking about. There was a reversal of gun control and mental illness to where people with mental illness can own, don't get kicked off from purchasing a weapon. I don't know what that's all about.
Well, wasn't that something that was backed up during the Clinton administration? Wasn't that something that he did away with?
It was Obama.
It was Obama. Okay. I was thinking Obama. It went back farther. Okay.
Well, all that I heard was it was possibly something that Obama did because Trump was undoing all of Obama's executive orders. So it was part of an executive order. Now, I don't know. Again, I heard it this morning, and I really didn't have much chance to research it prior to the program. So, but if that's the case, you do have to question, well, why would you do that? If it kept the mentally ill. And I get that. It's a dangerous slope. Who determines who's mentally ill?
Well, that's true, because Feinstein made the comment back in I believe it was 2012. I'm not sure exactly what year it was. She made the comment that all military veterans are mentally ill.
Yeah.
So here we're coming up, and Sean Hannity, one of his big things was, why don't we have retired vets, retired cops, and that? Why don't we get those in there as guards for our schools, and why don't we take some of this serious about that? And that immediately came to my mind. Well, that's not going to do with Feinstein, because she said all of our vets are mentally ill. I mean, she's just, they just go off on whatever agenda they want for that day. And then they're never held accountable for what they say. And I'm trying to look here. I'm sorry if you can hear me shuffling papers. Here it is. It's on the bottom.
And I think most politicians are mentally ill. So how about that?
You'd almost have to be to want to be one, wouldn't you? These are statements that were made, and this is a local guy, and he's constantly writing to the editor here in my little town. And he is a veteran, and he has been a school teacher. And he's retired right now. Oh, going into a break. But I wanted to read these to you because I thought you would get a big kick out of them. I shared them on the air on my show earlier this week. But I thought it was kind of fascinating that it's wherever you are at that moment in time, whatever vote you're trying to catch, if you're a politician, as to what you actually say. And I thought this was a telltale sign of some of that. We're heading into a break. It is Open Mic Friday at 717-300-1218, 717-300-1218. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann, and we'll be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we have returned to listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann. I had these three little statements, but I think Melody wants to go to the phones first, so we're going to go to Tom in Michigan. Tom, how are you today?
Hi, thanks for taking my call. You were talking about where Trump rescinded the regulations concerning mental illness and owning guns. That's kind of a misnomer. I think what happened was, people on disability, sometimes they have somebody take care of their affairs, like their checks will be sent to somebody else.
Yes.
And what happened was the Obama administration tried to put in regulations where anybody, like vets and things like that, whose checks were being sent to anybody else other than themselves, were deemed to be incompetent and couldn't have guns. So they were, this was veterans in wheelchairs and things of that nature. Anybody on Social Security, if they couldn't get around, they might give somebody power of attorney or something, something of that nature to get their checks. And that
I do
that
remember
that. It was just en masse, just a blanket. They just couldnn't have guns.
And that's when Feinstein made her statement. I do remember that. You're absolutely right, Tom.
And I just wanted to fill in that detail.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did, because I didn't know what the exact, and I knew it had to be something to where they could just target President Trump, because they globbed on it so quickly. And I figured there's got to be more to it than that, But so I do appreciate you calling that and clearing it up for the listeners and myself.
Okay, well, thanks again for taking my call.
You have a good weekend, Tom. Thank you. You want to go next?
No, go ahead.
Okay. These statements, like I said, this is from Ed here in Missouri. And the first statement, and he's giving you a multiple choice here. So you can answer who said this? Was it President Donald Trump? Was it Vice President Mike Pence? Was it Paul Ryan? Or was it none of the above? So the first statement, when I see Mexican flags waved at pro-immigration demonstrations, I sometimes feel a flush of patriotic resentment. When I'm forced to use a translator to communicate with the guy fixing my car, I feel a certain frustration. So who do you think said that, Melody? Do you think that was President Trump, Vice President Pence, Paul Ryan, or none of the above?
You tell us.
It was none of the above.
That's what I figured. That's what I thought.
It was Senator Barack Obama in 2006 who said that. Now, the next statement is, immigration reduces the wages of domestic workers who compete with immigrants. The fiscal burden of low-wage immigrants is also pretty clear. We'll need to reduce the flow of low-skilled immigrants. Now, who said that? Was it President Trump? Was it Vice President Pence? Was it Paul Ryan? Or none of the above?
None of the above.
None of the above is correct. It was Paul Krugman.
Ding, 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 ding.
You are so good. It was Paul Krugman, Democrat economist, Nobel Prize winner, and New York Times columnist back in 2006. Now, the third and last statement, we cannot allow people to enter the United States undetected, undocumented, and unchecked. Those who enter our country's borders illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law. Was that President Donald Trump? Was it Vice President Pence? Was it Paul Ryan, or none of the above?
None of the above?
None of the above. You are ding, ding,
ding, ding, ding, ding, ding, ding.
It was C. It was a platform statement in the 2008 Democrat Party. That was on their platform statement. The Democrat Party, oh, how they have changed their ways. And Ed makes the statement, we are so concerned with catching the flu that we're overlooking a more serious illness which is sweeping the liberal nation, Trump derangement syndrome. The only known cure is to move to another country. But you'll have to get behind the numerous actors, actresses, singers, and sports figures and liberal politicians who promised us that they'd leave if Trump was elected. Oh, well, just one more promise to improve America that Democrats reneged on. Now, this particular gentleman, and he is really a nice guy. He's raised 4 kiddos, and he and his wife's a registered nurse, retired, and he was, in his day, a registered Democrat. So I get a big kick out of him.
All right, we got another caller coming in. We got Bill from Arizona calling. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, ladies.
What you got for us today?
I was listening in on the alternative news flow last night, and I heard a story about a television news reporter from Houston, KHOU, apparently an award-winning sports reporter, who just happened to be in southern Florida to cover some kind of a sporting convention event, something down there. I don't know. I don't know anything about sports. I also don't know anything about social media. But he had talked to a woman, a young woman, who was a senior at that school where the shooting took place, and she told him to his face during an interview that he did with her that she was actually having a conversation with the supposed shooter in the hallway of the school while the shooting was going on in 2 different areas around them that they could hear. And it was news to this young man that she thought that he was the one that would have been doing that. Now, when this interview did not make it onto KHOU because the guy shot it back to him so they could get it on the news, it didn't run on KHOU. It ran on Twitter, which really surprised me because I didn't know Twitter did audio video, but apparently it does do audio video. And basically, that's out there now. For anybody who wants to go to the Twitter sphere, as they seem to call it, and look up KHOU, you could probably find this thing out there on Twitter of this interview that this guy did with a senior in that school that was actually talking to the supposed shooter at the time the supposed shooter was shooting.
All right, yeah, I saw that. I saw that video, Bill. And, so I know which one you're referencing.
And that has enough validity for you to put it on the air?
Pardon? No.
I mean, you're talking about yesterday. You were talking about lynching this young man without so much of his trial.
That's not my job here on this program. We're here to do a show. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate your comments every time. You can make some great points and so forth, but we're not here to be argued with. If you want to talk to me and argue with me, you call me on the phone. I don't think the rest of the listeners care to hear people argue with us. And if it was a decent argument and so forth, we would bring it on the air the next day. So these calls are for information, to talk about topics you want to talk about. I saw the video. Why would I want to play it on the air? I haven't come to any conclusion whether it's real or not. Everything you see on the Internet isn't true. And that's what people believe. Oh, it's on the Internet. It's got to be true. I remember one of the funniest commercials I've ever saw was a young girl talking to somebody, and they were talking about how everything on the Internet is true. And she's a young, pretty girl, and this guy comes up behind her, a little rough-looking, got long hair and, kind of chunky and, just wearing, clothes and so forth. And she says, well, I'm off to my date. He's from France. And it's like the whole point was everything on the Internet is, true. And it's just like...
I didn't see it, but I will look at it. I know that the shooter, whoever he was, if you don't believe it's this young man, the shooter was actually in the first parts of that. He was putting what he was doing on Snapchat, which is an instant thing. It's not Twitter, but it's one of those, things that are out there that he was doing that. So I don't know. I didn't see this video. Can't show a video on the radio anyway, but I didn't see the video, so I really can't make a comment on that. So
do I believe we get the truth out of all these things that are happening? No, I don't. Do I believe a lot of these things are used and sensationalized? Yeah, I do, on both sides.
Oh, absolutely, both sides.
Absolutely, both sides. And do I believe there all kinds of things can happen from everyone that we've had? Do I think we were told the truth about? Probably not. And we can go off and we can create all kinds of scenarios, and we end up believing what we want to believe. And I saw that video. She was a young girl from the school. She was a senior, as Bill said. I don't know. She smiled an awful lot. She didn't seem to be real upset. So I don't know. I don't know how credible that report was. I don't know. I can't imagine anyone being interviewed coming out and saying something that wasn't true. I can't, this type of a situation, I can't even imagine someone doing
we know that happens, though, and I can't imagine her not being upset. I'd have been upset if I was talking to the guy and somebody else was doing the shooting. I think I'd at least been upset and scared. And anyway,
I
don't know.
Stop and have a conversation with somebody.
If he wasn't,
I thought this would be you. And that was one of the statements. She says, one of the statements was, we always thought, I'm not sure, I only watched it once. She made a statement like, Nick, we always thought it would be you who'd do something like this or something like that. And he just had and she said he had this dumbfounded look on his face, shrugged his shoulders, and, went on. He wasn't even supposed to be in the school to begin with. So, there's all kinds of things that come out. But to air it on the program and to be challenged, no, sir, we don't need that.
No, absolutely not. For one thing, we don't have a bunch of reporters or investigators to figure out if this stuff's true either.
We could, if you want us to be investigators and do things like that, why don't you go ahead and send me a check? We can have a money bomb, and we can go ahead and do what everybody else does, and then we can do all that. But
yeah. Well, that's not what we're here for. But anyway, this is an article that came out of this particular situation, and it's Zachary Walls and Colton Habe. They were juniors, 2 junior reserve officers. Training corps. It saved countless lives and by their quick thinking and a little bit of Kevlar during their Wednesday's horrific attack on Marjorie Stonewall Douglas High School. That's a long name there in Florida. It says Walls and Habe described their heroic actions during a Thursday interview. Walls is a company commander, explained that while leading a group of roughly 60 students outside in response to a fire alarm pulled by suspected shooter Nicholas Cruz, he realized the students' fire zone was exactly where the shooter was. He says, I heard the first 2 or 3 shots. I knew it was gunshots, and I looked back at all the kids behind me. There's 60 kids looking at me. He says, what do I do? Where do I go? And I just yelled, get back in the classroom. Walls and Habe, the junior OTC captain, eventually took shelter in the same classroom where they decided to build a shield out of the Kevlar curtains used for they used to call it ROTC, I guess it's junior ROTC now, training exercises to protect the students. Said, I brought those curtains out because I knew exactly what they were made of. I never thought that we'd need them, but yesterday we did. And I'm glad we had them. I mean, yesterday was more than that, but this came out yesterday, so it was yesterday, the day before. But I thought that was kind of ingenious. These 2 young men, did that. And, of course, they've been talking about, and I mentioned it yesterday, and there's going to be more stories of heroism, those that actually gave the ultimate sacrifice for others. And the one was the football coach who took the shots. He stood in front of the students while they got away and took the shots to save the students, basically jumped in front of the bullets. So we're going to hear more and more of that, but I thought, we always talk about how ignorant our students are and our youth, and I don't believe they all are. I think we've got some that are, but we got a lot of adults that are too. But I thought, it's good to hear the good news, and they were thinking on their feet. They were doing whatever they could to protect those kiddos, and they were the ROTC leaders, and I thought that was kind of neat that they took the curtain that they used for when they're doing their maneuvers, I guess, and training, and put that in place as a shield. So I thought that was pretty good.
Very interesting, yes. And you know what, it truly is sad that these, I'm still a little...
I know. You're upset. Okay.
No, I'm not upset, but for anybody to challenge my honesty and, trying to get to the bottom of things kind of upsets me, But
we're doing the best we can with the tools we got. That's what my mentor used to say, and I used to laugh. He'd have people call him, and they'd ask, it was like we were in some high rise with all these lawyers and all these investigative reporters and everybody on staff, and it was just him and me. Him and me,
people reference, all of these, Rush Limbaugh, all these other, who do you think writes their scripts? Ladies and gentlemen, they're on scripts. They've got writers, producers. Our script is Beth and me. So you're going to get more truth and honesty in this program than anywhere.
And my writing's not very good.
And it's not to say that these other, folks aren't truthful and honest. I'm not saying that at all. But the majority of their commentaries are scripted, written.
And anytime you see, particularly the videos and audios, you've got to really question them because they can splice and make them anything they want to make them out to be. And I saw a lot of that going on in the past, and people got caught up in it because, oh my gosh, I could see it. It's right before my very eyes. Well, be careful what you see. Remember the Wizard of Oz. Be careful pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. And you just have to be careful. And we're doing the best we can with the tools we got. And sorting through all of the mass of information and such that goes across the internet is just, it's astounding. I mean, it's overwhelming. And I know you get it too, Melody. And we have certain sources we trust, and every now and then those sources let us down. They get caught up in something, and you just have to be careful. And we just don't have the. And even if you did, because they do, some of those do, and they still get caught up in it. Even if you did have a high-rise offices full of investigative reporters and lawyers, you still got to be careful.
You still have to be careful. So, I mean, we do appreciate all of your calls, and it's very important because that helps me also. You know, it helps all of us. Your calls are very, very important. So we do thank you.
I had a caller yesterday on CSC Talk Radio, and he said, Melody's never mentioned this, and he says, I think she needs to go back and remember this and mention it. And he was talking about the story of Joseph. No. This is a good thing. He was plugging you. He was plugging you. And he'd never seen you go this angle before. And he was talking about the story of Joseph, you know, coat of many colors. His family hated him. They sold him in slavery, and he got himself in trouble two or three times. And, well, he was framed. But he was in trouble several times, and then he ended up, you know, second to the king. And the family comes back during the hardship, and they try to buy. And what did they use to buy? What did they have in their savings? They had gold and silver. And he said, you know, I've not heard Melody talk about that. She ought to go that angle every once in a while. They had their gold and their silver. So I just thought, you know, you are well known on my show as well. One day I will be well known on your shows.
Okay. And one day this program will be well known.
There you go. There you go. We're not sure what we'll be known for, but, you know.
That's true. But I do know I hear such good comments about the program.
Oh, good.
And I do, and I'm sure you do too, but I hear lots of good comments about the program. Our listeners are increasing, and I do appreciate that, and I appreciate each and every listener that's out there, both for this program and my program that I have at 4 o'clock, Financial Survival. So, do we have any other news?
Well, you know,
I don't even know what to.
We're done now. No, we have.
Are we done? Can I go?
No, you can't go. No, you can't go. I had this article. The U.S. teen star Kim, she just melted the hearts with tearful her snowboarding gold medal that she won. She won the gold medal, and she absolutely, when she got on the platform to accept her medal to be crowned or whatever it is they did, she just broke down with emotion. She wrapped herself up in the American flag, and she just absolutely broke down with emotion.
Aww.
And the article, when it was going around, it was I'm trying to think who this is put out by. It's going around. I mean, it's a good article. It's a worthy source. It had the pictures of her and everything. She just absolutely broke down. Of course, her story is that she's an American teen. Her name is Chloe Kim, and her family escaped from Korea, has Korean heritage, and she was just overcome. It says Kim had been assured of gold before her pulsating final run after China's Liu, I can't pronounce these names, crashed in her last descent. Pumping her fists after finishing with back-to-back 1080 spins, Kim was serenaded by a pumped-up crowd chanting, "Chloe Kim, Chloe Kim." But after wrapping herself up in the American flag, Kim was suddenly overcome with emotion, and the tears flowed as she celebrated with her Korean parents. Goes on to say she didn't realize until the second time she was coming down the hill that her grandmother was in the audience watching. Mm-hmm. And she said, when I realized that, this one's for you, Grams. Anyway, it was an emotional time for this family. And while his daughter was bewitching the local fans, Kim's father, Kim Jin, was Yan Jim, I don't know how you pronounce these names, was spotted waving a handmade sign which read, "Go Chloe, go Chloe." And anyway, it was just kind of a heartwarming story of success. You know, this young girl, she made it to the Olympics, she won the gold, and she became very overwhelmed with her heritage, where they came from, and where they were now, and just wrapped herself up in that American flag. And I thought that was just, a nice, warm, fuzzy story. We need warm, fuzzy stories. We've had a rough week. I've had a rough 2 weeks, but we've had a rough week, and we need some encouragement to know.
Well, we have a caller. We have Dave in Pennsylvania. Good morning, Dave.
Hello, ladies. How are you today?
Just fine, thank you.
Good, thank you. Happy
Good.
Friday.
Love your show.
Thank you.
What's on your mind today?
There's a lot I'd like to say, really. But just from what you're talking about now, Beth, no, it's all good, really.
Good.
In times like this, I just would like to maybe talk about the kids a little bit. And Beth, to the story you just told about the snowboarder, that is a great story. Another thing I found out about her, she is fluent in 3 languages.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy? American, Korean, and I believe it's French, if I'm not mistaken.
Might possibly be.
Yeah. I mean,
Dave, you hang on. We're going into a break. We want to hang on to your positive encouragement on this Friday. We want to hang on to that. We're headed into a break. It is Open Mic Friday. 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. Melody, Beth Ann, and Dave from Pennsylvania will be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit DiscountGoldandSilverTrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on Internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the Internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, and it is Friday, and it's Open Mic Friday, and we're going to go back to Dave. He was just getting going whenever we heard that little music taking us into a break. Dave, let's go back to your positive. I like positive. I've had a rough week, a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I know. I think we all have.
Absolutely.
Well, let me just go back to what Bill had said for a second. I was listening to Alex Jones' show yesterday, and he had another gentleman on there. I think he was a senior in the high school, and he had some other information on that may have suggested a second shooter, and I don't want to go any further than that. But there's probably some other information out there that we don't have privy to or whatever. We just have to, you wait and see what happens. I mean, you can go back to Vegas, and there's a lot of unanswered questions about that.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
We may never know.
I agree.
So, But, I also saw a lot of the kids when they were being interviewed after the shooting, and it just they were very calm about having to step over, explaining stories of stepping over dead bodies and injured bodies. It's a strange culture we live in now, I think, and there's a lot of good kids, and all those kids they were very well spoken, very very good kids, and not everybody's like that. But,
that's true. And, they were also in shock. You got to remember they were in shock. So,
sure.
And they're young. I mean, you're talking, we talk about seniors. We're talking about this kid being 19. But these are 14, 15-year-old children,
Yeah. The one girl they were interviewing last evening, she was a freshman. So she said, no, I didn't know him, but I know people who did. And then she broke down. She says, and some of my friends are gone now. I mean, they're young, they're in shock, they don't know what to think, and I having raised a bunch of kiddos, and you talk to teenagers and how they talk, there's always this, and they repeat that phrase a lot, and some of the other things that they say, and I just had to I was a little bit aggravated at some of the interviews that these kids were having to endure because, the one journalist or one reporter there on Fox last night said, that was a rough interview. And I said, yeah, it was. Why did you do that to that young girl? Let them have a time to grieve. Don't ask them, well, your friend was shot standing beside you. How did that make you feel? Let's give these kids, whether they're children or adults, let's give them some time to grieve and to rest. I mean, these kids probably aren't even sleeping very well right now. So, I get aggravated. My dad used to do that. He used to get aggravated. Why don't they just leave these people alone? They've been through terrible ordeal. Just leave them alone for a little bit. But, they just jump right in there, and they're going to make, weeks and weeks of headlines over it. And if that's what this kid wanted, he's getting exactly what he tried to get, and I wouldn't give him the notoriety for sure. And these kids need to have some time to grieve and to they've closed the school for the week so they could have some counseling and all this and that, but I agree. I thought that the kids seemed very upstanding, good old kids, so I agree with you on that, Dave, 100%. I was impressed with the young people.
Dittos.
Yeah. And I think the answer just has to come down to a tighter school security all the way around. All the way around. If it's an armed guard team or something like that. Now, this poor football coach, I think he was the only security guard, from what I've heard so far, just what I've heard, on duty. I guess he was acting as security for the school.
Well, now, they had a security guard, I think, that got killed first out. I mean, he was one of the first ones that the kid took out, or the shooter took out, whoever, And so I think the first security guard, and I'm not sure if he was armed or not. I think he had a handgun, but I'm not positive on that.
Is that right? Okay. Yeah.
Well, I heard
taken out right away.
And this is the problem when you take stories right from the beginning without waiting. And I heard something totally different. We certainly had the coach. He was supposedly a security guard, and he was not armed. But I also heard statements that there was actually someone else in the school that was armed.
Okay.
So they didn't call him a quote-unquote security guard. I can't recall exactly the title that he held or so forth, but supposedly. Now, again, I don't know. But those.
And I've heard both.
I've
heard both statements. He was armed. He wasn't armed. I know the coach was not. That's
also what I heard.
Yes.
You're right.
But I think you're right, Dave. I think they need to look into making that a position in the schools. To have a security guard and have a guard or guards and a plan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they already locked the schools.
Well,
they already locked the schools. You have to have a way to get get in at certain hours.
No way teachers can't be trained.
They should be.
They should be trained. And I read in Israel schools, they have like 3 teachers that are trained. You don't know who they are. It's just like the marshals on the airlines. You don't know who they are. And they're trained. The doors are locked.
That's right. They had a rash of that, the Israelis in the 70s. And since they've tightened it down, there hasn't been another one.
And there was a school in the state. There was a school in the state of Missouri that started doing that. They started training their teachers, and so they have some teachers that are concealed carry that nobody knows who they are.
Nobody knows who they are.
You have some, and on top of that, additional security.
Absolutely. Somebody has to be at that front door.
Yeah. Yeah, at least one, or a team of 3.
Well, they got more than one door, so.
Schools these days, and all doors should be locked, with a pass or something.
Isn't that a shame? I remember when my kids were in school, you could go in, they forgot something, and I could take it to them, but you can't do that anymore.
No.
Well, I remember when we could sleep with our doors unlocked.
Yeah.
And we no longer live in that world, and
no, we do not.
We haven't adjusted to the world in which we live.
And we talked about it yesterday, and I know Dave probably agrees with us that the real problem is the decline in morality. We had the New Age movement here years and years ago. Your truth and my truth, they don't necessarily the same. Well, then they're not truth, are they? So we have this strange morality. On one hand, they're telling these kids it's okay to be confused about who you are. You don't have to decide whether you're male or female today. You could decide that tomorrow.
There's no boundaries anymore.
And then we wonder why they're, confused, and why and the video games that they play and the movies, Hollywood's one of the worst critics, and they make millions and billions of dollars off of violence.
The biggest hypocrites of all.
Oh,
absolutely. Yep.
I was saying their black dresses they were wearing to, Me Too. Is that what the Me Too movement, to stand for women? And I said some of those black dresses were barely there. so they were definitely promoting something, but I don't think it was purity.
Yeah, we'll be hearing about that in a couple of weeks. I believe the Oscars are coming up, so.
Oh boy, can't wait, Dave. Can't wait.
You want to get a new black dress? I think we're going to do that. All right, thanks, Dave. Appreciate the call.
Hey, real quick. Real quick, if I could. Let me just try and get a couple laughs out of you here. I was visiting with my niece, and she had a couple Valentine's Day cards that she got from her class. And I had some couple cute jokes on it.
All right, we're ready
just
for
a couple here, real quick. What did the boy squirrel say to the girl squirrel?
I don't know.
I'm nuts about you.
Of course.
What did the paperclip say to the magnet?
Oh my goodness.
Tell us.
I'm stuck
I find
on you?
you so attractive.
Oh.
And this was my favorite one. Last one. Well, what did the French chef give it to his wife for Valentine's Day.
Oh, I heard this one, but I can't remember the answer. Quickly, tell me. Quickly.
A hug and a quiche.
A hug and a quiche.
Thank you. I'll be here all week.
What a wonderful way to end the week. Thank you so much. A hug and a quiche to everyone, right, Melody?
Absolutely.
I hear the music. It's playing free. We want you to remain free. Have a great and fantastic weekend. We'll be back on Monday. Thank you, Melody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.